So good morning. We're so glad you're here. Thanks for joining us. Our guest today is Debi Willis, and we are in webinar format. The reason why I do that, guys, is just so that we can record effectively and keep the sound down, as you know. So just to remind everybody what Purse Power is all about, Purse Power is working to help women use their massive purchasing power to drive positive change. We believe that if women who make 80% of all purchasing decisions would choose to buy from the companies that actively promote women, and we could create a funding stream for battered women's shelters in the process, that we could shatter glass ceilings and change lives. So that's what we're trying to do at Purse Power. And those of you, many of you here today have been on these calls several times, so you know that we're just trying to connect you with each other, trying to give you examples. Like Debbie is a fantastic example of a great entrepreneur who had an idea and is really taken it places. And it's great to learn from people like that and also connect with each other. So that's what we're trying to do. As I have guests on here, welcome to everyone who's here. I'm going to introduce Debbie, give you a little bit of her background. Later, we'll have the chat function open. Please, guys, please do think of questions as we go and be ready to ask those when we get to that place. And you can also share your comments in the chat box. And I'd love for you to introduce yourself on chat. Please, tell us who you are. Okay, so let me go ahead and introduce Debbie. And Debbie and I have known each other for a few years here. She is the CEO and founder of PatientLinks Enterprise. And she's focused on healthcare IT and has 2 decades of experience in healthcare interoperability. You're going to have to tell me what that means, Debbie.
Sure.
Can you define the word for me?
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I'm really bothered that my son is so weird. So hope this is okay.
Yeah.
Interoperability means the exchange of data between disparate systems that don't normally talk to each other, that the data can flow from one system to another without all the human intervention and stalling and things like that. Automate data flow.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll keep going now. So she's a software engineer who's gotten 2 patents for the first application to enable patients to send their own healthcare information to electronic health records systems. And she was selected as one of 11 in the nation who are leading digital disruption of healthcare. And she's won a number of awards for her software applications. She is a software engineer and a nationally recognized speaker. She has firsthand experience caring for family members with cancer and also as a survivor herself. So she brings that perspective of both a patient, a caregiver, and a technology expert to the table. So I'm so glad you're here, Debbie. Thank you for coming.
And thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure to speak with you today.
Okay, thank you. All right, so we're interested in knowing about you and how you got here in your life and career. So I just want you to kind of give us your story, your backstory.
Okay. Well, gosh, I am a software engineer. I started that a long time ago and worked for the Federal Reserve Bank there in Kansas City. And I met a doctor who was all excited about something called electronic medical records back in the 90s. And I love looking at new problems, new technologies. And so I started looking into it. I jumped from the Federal Reserve into building stuff for medicine. And as electronic medical records were rolling out, I saw that doctors were very frustrated because they had to type everything into the computer, and they would say, I didn't go to medical school to be a transcriptionist. And it's true. They were not using their skill set to the highest degree because they were fighting with the computer. And so I asked for permission to follow the doctors and nurses, sit in waiting rooms and just watch what was going on. I'm a watcher. And I noticed that most of the stuff that was being typed into the electronic medical record came directly out of the patient's mouth. They would say, do you have a headache? Yes. And they would type it in. Do you have a family history of diabetes? Yes. And then type it in. So I thought, well, why don't we just bypass the doctor or the nurse typing it in? If it's coming from the patient, let's find a way to get it into the medical record. And so I went looking for software to do that. It was not my intention to write it. I really wanted to just implement it and, not have to write it, but I couldn't find it anywhere. This was back in the late 90s. So I just decided to write an interface between a patient into an electronic medical record just to kind of push their data as structured data into all the different places in the electronic medical record. And it was not my intention to start a company. I kind of joke and say I started a company by accident, because what happened was I was working for a small company in Kansas City, and I just built this to help my clients. And once that was displayed at a national conference, I had all these people coming and saying, would you write this for me? Because every doctor wants to ask different questions. A pediatrician's not going to ask the same questions as a cardiologist and things like that. And so I was a little fearful because I had a good job with a good salary, and I was the breadwinner in my family. And to jump from a very secure salary to running your own business is a really scary thing. And so I really had to ponder that. And I am a Christian, and prayer is a very important part of my life. And so I prayed about it a lot. Is this the path I'm supposed to take? Because if I didn't have assurance deep within me that this was the path I was going to take, I was always going to second guess myself. I was always going to feel like I made the wrong choice. And so I felt, yes, this was the path I was going to take. It was going to be hard at times, but in the end, I would be fine. So I jumped into my own company very slowly. I decreased my work, my full-time job, and increased my work in the company. And it got to the point where I could do this. I remember thinking, if I could just sell 20 PatientLinks systems, I will be fine. And now we have tens of thousands of doctors that are using our system. So I passed the barrier that I had made for myself of what fine meant. But that's how I got here with part of my products. We have 4 products at mypatientlink.com. You can see all 4, but 3 of them were to gather data from a patient into an electronic medical record. The 4th one was a more personal one for me and has come out more recently. And it allows a patient to pull their data from all their doctor's offices into a record for themselves. It's like a miniature electronic medical record just for the patient. And kind of what motivated me to do that is years ago, my sister had brain cancer, and I helped to take care of her. And I remember all of the family wanted so desperately to find a cure. She was the 3rd member of my family with brain cancer, which is not common.
Wow.
And so we looked for research and everything we could figure out. And we lost her. And then about that same time, my mom was diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and we began to lose her in a different way. And then I got kidney cancer. And when I got diagnosed with kidney cancer, I remember going home and sitting on my sofa and saying to myself, I want to speak to a woman in Oklahoma City who has kidney cancer, because I want to hear what has changed in her life. How did she get through this? And I want to speak to researchers to find out what they know about it. And so that kind of was the bubbling up of a desire to build something to empower patients, that we need to know about our health. My records were scattered all amongst several different clinics, and I wondered, did we miss something somewhere? You know, my kidney cancer was still encompassed in my kidney, but it probably 1 or 2 more months and it would have been beyond that. And so I thought, maybe there was a clue somewhere that we missed. And maybe if I would have had access to it and looked at all the fine details of it, I could have found it sooner, you know. So anyway, that's kind of my story of how I started my company, but how I also morphed into the MyLinks product. That is the electronic medical, the miniature one for patients. And to me, that's my kind of my heart goal, you know, of as far as technology is concerned.
So let's talk about that. You've got this bigger mission and you've got a meaningful business. You're trying to make a difference. Talk about your mission now and how you're trying to achieve it. And then also some of your successes kind of along the way.
Absolutely. So when I started my company, and that was 21 years ago, you know, I was helping patients to answer questionnaires, whether on paper or eventually from the internet, and have it flow in. I remember kind of almost having to justify that patients really knew what they were talking about. You know, people would say, "Oh, patients don't know what they're talking about. We want to enter the data because patients don't know." And I was thinking, well, aren't you asking them the questions, and aren't you typing in what they're saying? So let's admit the patients must know what they're talking about. And so it was back then fighting for the patient's right to be heard and taken seriously, to right now, 21 years later, the government actually is now is fighting for patients' rights to gather their data. There's a under HHS is a legal entity called the ONC, that stands for the Office of the National Coordinator for Health IT. And what they do is they make the rules for technology in healthcare. You know, so there's healthcare but then there's technology for healthcare, and the ONC manages that, and they make the rules. And so back in 2018, well, actually back in 2015, the ONC had mandated that by 2018, every electronic medical record company needed to have an interface. It's called an API, Application Programming Interface, to allow patients to pull their data from their doctor's office, which was pretty exciting. And so in 2018, all these electronic medical record companies started building this into their EHRs. I'm going to use that term now because it's easier. And they all seem to choose, well, not all, but 85% of them chose a particular standard called FHIR, FHIR, Fast Healthcare Interoperability Resources. We have a lot of acronyms, and I apologize for that. And that was developed with a company called HL7, stands for Health Level 7, who'd been around for 30 years or so, well, more than that. And the HL7 sets the standards for the whole globe, technology standards for exchanging data. So FHIR was a new standard. And so the ONC, after they saw that most of the electronic medical records were choosing FHIR, they then recently mandated within this last year that now every electronic medical record has to have a FHIR interface for patients to pull their data. And if they don't, it's a $1 million fine for information blocking. Yes, 1 million.
Wow.
And so that's a pretty significant thing to acknowledge that patients have a right to their data. And so now we have that MyLinks is a FHIR application. It's FHIR-based technology, and there's very few FHIR consumer-facing applications for patients to pull their data. And so that is really exciting to me that we can help patients. It's absolutely free. We don't charge anything for it. My other 3 products are what's funding this 4th product. But our ultimate goal is back to where I told the story about my sister, that when she got brain cancer, we really wanted to find researchers. I believe that we can't find the cause nor the cure of a lot of illnesses, Alzheimer's, autism, a lot of these brain cancers, because our data is fragmented in electronic medical records all over the place. And the statistics are that 84% of us have errors in our charts. So researchers are looking at the data in the EHRs, and 84% of them are wrong. How could you possibly have a good result on research if you're looking at bad data? And so what we're doing now with MyLinks is enabling patients to indicate they want to participate in research or they want to share their data with research. Everything is patient controlled. We never give even de-identified data to anybody. And so that way they can progress the study, you know, of things that are important to them, like Alzheimer's for me. You know, I want to find what's going on with Alzheimer's. And so the ultimate goal of my links is not only, which I shouldn't, you know, don't misunderstand my only as if I'm belittling it, but it's not singularly to empower patients so they can understand their illness by having all their data in one spot and also having it available in case of emergencies, but it's also to empower patients to participate very easily in bi-directional communication with researchers. Because a lot of these research systems, it's only a one way. You know, the researchers get the data and the patients kind of left there not knowing what's going on, not knowing after the study is over, what were the results. And if the patient comes, you know, has some sort of adverse event or has a question, you know, even after the study's over, especially after the study's over, there's no one for them to contact. And so what we do is we empower them to kind of be in the driver's seat. They are now in the driver's seat and can have direct communication back and forth with researchers, with their providers, whoever they feel is important, and share with their family too.
Perfect. At one point, I think you were talking about even allowing the patients to get in touch with each other. Does that happen too, or no?
We actually built that platform, but then I started seeing there was a platform on Facebook where there were kind of stalkers in some of the rooms.
Oh no.
And I thought, no, we're not going to do that. We're not, you know, until I am certain that the platform is pure and for patients and for their healing. We turned that feature off because, you know, if you're sick, the last thing you need is somebody's trying to sell you something by false pretense.
Absolutely.
So
wow. Okay.
That's off for right now.
Got it. That's amazing. Yeah, amazing. I love what you're doing, and your heart is absolutely in making a difference, which ours is too. All right. Entrepreneurialism is hard sometimes. Have you faced any particularly tough times on your entrepreneurial journey, and how'd you get through them?
Yeah, especially at first. I talked a little bit about that. At first, you're going to have almost no income, but you have to be prepared for that, and mostly emotional. I had already set a goal for myself that I was always going to have 3 months of revenue set aside, didn't touch it. And that if I didn't get a single job for 3 months, I was going to be okay. So that was a rule I set for myself. And part of that was because I was a single mom with 4 kids at one time, and about as poor as you can get, almost. And so I had decided at that point to only buy things I needed, and I bought them with cash. I didn't have I didn't go into credit, you know, and that was all personal goals. So, but having 3 months set aside so you don't freak out if you don't have work for a little bit, like COVID has really pulled some people under. But because we had a little, you know, we had a padding, it didn't frighten me. So that was one thing, is you have to think about finances. And the other thing is you have to be prepared to work 70 hours a week, sometimes more or more. So it's not like you can go to work 8 to 5 and when you get home, you don't have to think about it. You think about it 24/7, you know this. And so that was kind of difficult. I'm very, very happy I made this choice, but it was hard. You know, anybody who has children knows that sometimes it's not so fun to have children, because they're the greatest heartache, but they're also the greatest joy. So you have to be prepared for the hard times emotionally and financially. And so that's one of the things that I think everybody needs to, regardless of what industry you went into. Now I'm in an industry that's mostly male, so I had a little bit, probably some different things I needed to overcome, and still am overcoming, you know, but anyway, I think that that's my beginning lesson I think I'd like to share.
Okay. Okay. Very good. Very good. I admire you so much. All right. So if you could talk to yourself when you were first starting out, what do you wish you would have known? And how would you have prepared yourself for what was to come?
Okay. So going back to my statement about I'm in a male dominated industry, that is, I don't know the statistics, whether it's like 1 or 2% of technology companies are run and owned by females, or just run by them. When I go to conferences, I am surrounded by men who might not think a woman is as smart, or maybe ignores us. I'm not really sure, exactly, but I've gone to talk to speakers. I've spoken before on stages, and people will come up and talk to me. But sometimes if I see a speaker I really appreciate, I'll go and I'll wait in line and go to talk to them. But sometimes I'm like next in line. I've been waiting there patiently 5 minutes, and then a man comes and kind of pretends, I guess, that I'm invisible and sticks the hand and starts talking to this person. And it used to get me really upset. Well, I can't say it doesn't get me upset now, but I started thinking in a different way, because I had a friend of mine, actually, he was a young man that I've known since he was a little boy, and he runs a company. And I told him this, and he said, the same thing happens to me. And he's a man, and because he's more introverted, which I am. I'm a more shy person. I'm a people watcher. He said that one of the people in his company, if the two of them are standing there, people will come up and assume his friend is the CEO and start talking to his friend. And he said, but what I do is I use that moment in time before they get the aha, I'm talking to the wrong person moment in their head, to evaluate that person, because that person's not trying to impress them. So I thought, that's a different way, because I am a people watcher, that I get to watch them interacting with somebody else and pick up on the different things that are happening there. Because when somebody's speaking directly to you, you are engaged in a different way in your brain than if you're watching two people speak. And so it gives me a kind of an advantage now, because I can evaluate them for a little bit before they start talking to me. Because really the first few seconds you meet a person is very powerful. And so I had, based on his insight, I've been able to take what was a previous disadvantage and turn it to an advantage. And so really what I feel that's very important, and we've talked about this before, is understand who you are. Understand your strengths. Don't compare yourself to other people, because we are all, every one of us is very special, and we're in this for a reason. And so know who you are. Don't compare yourself with anybody else. Be steadfast in your mission, and I think you'll be happy. You'll be okay. Not to say you won't go through hard troubles, hard times, but you won't second guess yourself every 6 months, because you are expecting it.
Right.
Like you said earlier, that the fish shouldn't be expected to climb a tree. The fish, if the fish knows they're a fish and they're not expected to climb a tree, that is great comfort. I am who I am. And I just learned not to apologize for that. And I appreciate people for who they are. And so all together we can make this beautiful picture together.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, the other thing, I talked to a bunch of senior executive women a few years ago, and one of the things they told me is that the key inflection point in their careers was overcoming something difficult. And it's interesting, because I think that we've got a chance to rise right now, go through the tough time and rise, right?
Right. Another thing too, I want to share is, trust your gut. When you're about to hire somebody, for one thing, I have learned, check references. Even though they're a friend, check the references, who they worked for before, were they a team player? Because we're very team oriented. You can't have a maverick who disregards everybody else if you are a team environment. Now, if you want to have a bunch of mavericks, that's good. It's good to hire a maverick, but check references and trust your gut. If there is something in you that says, I'm not sure about this person, slow down. Don't hire them. Just pause for a second and find out what is it in you that's questioning this, and how can you confirm either your fears or kind of realize that your fears were not founded, because now you have additional information. And because who you hire is like, it is very, very important who you hire. And it will impact the rest of your life. Even if they're not an employee for more than a short period of time, it still has impacted you and maybe turned your trajectory a little bit. And it impacts the other employees. You have an employee that's caused a little bit of issues. The other employees are watching how you're dealing with that person. So it's important to really think about who you're going to get.
Absolutely.
Is the sun really too bright for me? Should I scooch over?
You can do whatever you like. Whatever works for you is good by me.
Well, I want y'all to see me, but I don't want to like be this glowing face to where I blind y'all. That's probably too dark, huh? Well, it's kind of like in work, right? You know, you just got to test this one to test the other thing. So,
yeah, earlier you looked like you had a halo. So, I mean, you probably do, given everything you're doing.
Oh, I better stop that.
All right. I want to go ahead and skip the fifth question I had and go to the sixth one here. So I know you've bootstrapped your company primarily. Have you ever gone for funding or major partnerships? And why did you choose to do what you did? And what were your key learnings from that?
Okay, sorry, I'm wiggling around, but I am listening. Okay. Yeah, I thought about getting funding, but then I also realized it's like getting married, that this is a really more serious than an employee. I'm a dark blob now. Is that okay with you? You can hear my voice.
I can see. I don't know what it looks like on the tape, but all right.
Okay, so in order for me to really join with another company, they have to have the same goals as me, right? They have to have the same heart. I'm very protective of our clients. We treat them as if they're the only client, you know, because we want them to trust us and know us. And I'm also very protective of my employees. I want everybody to feel valued. And so in order to join with another company, I really need to know that they will take care of our clients and they will take care of our employees. And that means to me that they need to know something about the business, right? We don't make widgets. We make very customized software to meet the needs of hospitals and clinics and patients. And that is not the same as somebody coming in that said, you know, yeah, you know, we had a flyer factory, you know, it's not the same. So they have to be in an area where I feel that they can really understand and also have a particular heart. So so that's one thing. I know I'm very protective. I have not accepted funding, simply because I didn't find the right people is why. And also I wanted to make sure that they don't take the company in a direction that I don't feel it should go towards. So I've bootstrapped, and part of that comes with the beginning philosophy that I had is 3 months in the bank of you don't touch it, you know, you can do this. And so I've not needed that. And I'm happy. You know, there are a lot of people who very successfully team up with others, and maybe we'll do that in the future. It's definitely not off my radar. It's just a very cautious step.
Okay, smart.
That makes sense.
It does. Okay, guys, I want you to get your questions ready. Please do come up with some questions. Let's see here. So in this challenging environment we're in today, with the uncertainty of the future, what are the most important things you think we need to be focusing on right now?
gosh, that spectrum can be really high.
That's a big
So,
question. Yeah, I know.
that's a big question. Now, if you're
Mhm.
speaking, which is the most important thing that an entrepreneur should be focusing on?
Yes, yes,
I
that's
would
who's on the
say
phone.
make sure you save every penny that you don't have to spend. I
Mhm.
put everything back into my company. I don't go buy fancy boats, and you know, some people do that. They make their they have their company so that they can buy things.
Mhm.
Not to say we don't buy things, but we buy things with my salary, not with the
Mhm.
company money. And
Mhm.
so I always put things back when we have a surplus. That means I can grow my company. I can hire another employee. I can give bonuses. I can maybe add a new product to our product line. So I think especially in this environment when the future is not really clear,
Mhm.
you shouldn't be out there spending money on things that you don't need.
Yeah.
Be cautious. So that's what I would be my answer. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, it's a really interesting time. Okay, guys, why don't you go ahead and ask any questions you might have? Go ahead and put them in the Q&A box or put them in chat. And let's see, we got some questions, some things going on in chat. Let's see here. All right. Okay, what do you think the next big innovation in medical technology is going to be? And they're saying that they're so sorry about your sister, and that's heartbreaking. But
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. She was a wonderful person. I miss her. The next big breakthrough, you know, there's things that we can do that can be built, but that doesn't mean they should be built.
mhm.
And so right now we have innovated information going back and forth. We have empowered patients to understand their care more. And they're already doing device sharing of information and things like that. AI is a big deal, artificial intelligence, but I'm very cautious of that simply because, remember I said 84% of us have errors in our chart?
Mhm.
If you do AI on bad data, you're going to have a bad care plan. And so, which is why I think it's so important for patients to be able to look at their data. They can
Mhm.
identify the errors, they can share the truth. So I think AI, if it's done right, will change healthcare. It has to be done on good data, which means very much patient involvement. And it has to be done in security, because now we're seeing all the hacking of hospitals and health groups.
That's
You know,
scary.
shutting. So that needs to be managed. But there is the possibility for that to make a tremendous impact. It could be that, you know, maybe my cancer could have been found earlier, or maybe my sister's cancer could have been found earlier if there were some markers that were there that we could have understood. But so you have to have the data, all the data.
Mhm.
Has to be good data, and then you have to have the right analysis on it. You know, people need to realize that computers only do what programmers tell them to do, right? So you have to have really smart programmers that really understand not just data, but workflows and really the whole picture. Because you can have really smart programmers, you can have great data, but if the workflow is that the provider can't get to it, they don't see it because it's in a tab somewhere where they never look, it's not going to do anybody any good. So you have to know the whole picture. And I'm hoping that that's where we go. And I think it would really start with patients deciding to share their data with somebody, saying, let me do AI on your data and see if I can see anything. That, I think it needs to be handled that way, not going to a hospital and asking for everybody's data and doing AI on it. Multiple reasons, because you didn't ask permission from the patients, and you can get people upset, and that's happened
Mhm.
a year ago. But also that data not being incorrect, you know. So I do foresee that's coming, but it has to be done with patient involvement.
Boy, that is I hadn't really thought about that, but that could be really scary. It could be very helpful, or it could be really, really scary if they start getting AI involved in medical records.
Yeah, especially if they're wrong. You know,
Yeah.
if I'm either not told something that I have because the data was wrong or it was missing, and I was counting on them telling me, or if they tell me that looks like you have something but you don't really, because they messed up, they mingled your chart with somebody else's, which has happened to me before. And so getting it right is really the data right, and then getting the right people involved is the foundation. If you don't do those two things, it won't be successful. It'll be a nightmare, actually, and people lose confidence in it.
Well, and you think about credit card data and all of that and all the things that have happened, and that's bad enough, but the healthcare data getting out there somehow, oh my gosh. Orders of magnitude worse.
That happened a lot, yeah.
Okay, wow. All right, so Julie's asking, are any of your kids following in your footsteps?
Actually, one of my daughters works for me. My oldest did work for me, but she now has 4 kids, and she's homeschooling them, so she has a full-time job. And my youngest daughter, she's 30, she'll be 32 this year. She works for me, and it can be a mixed blessing. I am thrilled to have her work with me. I love her to pieces, but you have to be really careful when you involve family. You have to, set the ground rules. If this doesn't work out, I'm going to have to fire you. And if I fire you, please don't get mad at me. So yes, they do. Yeah, actually, when I was first learning how to program, I sat my youngest, who was a baby, on my lap, and I showed her the cool things you could do in writing programs. So she was very involved from the beginning. She used to come and sit at my feet when I started my own company. And I do want to touch that for a second. I remember I said you have to work 70 hours a week sometimes or more. Mm-hmm. Well, my daughter, she was young. She was in elementary, and then she was in junior high, and she'd come and sit at my feet, and I'd say, babe, mom's working. And she'd say, okay, I'll just sit here quietly. And then I realized, she's not going to be doing that. She's not going to be sitting here and want to spend time with me very much in 3-4 years. I'm just going to stop. I'm going to turn the computer screen down, or and I'm going to spend time with her, even if it's 5 minutes, because you can put your work on hold for a little bit. You can't always put your kids on hold because they need to feel valued, and that's really hard to balance that, but it's really important because time goes by so fast. I can't believe how fast the last 20 years have gone. A little bit scary, to be honest with you. But the people around us are so valuable, and it's important to recognize that and give them the time slots. And I used to really struggle. So I would always feel guilty if I'm working and not spending time with my family or folding the laundry or whatever. I'd feel guilty. So I'm working and I'm feeling guilty. And that is not a good thing. But when I spent time with my family, then I felt guilty that I wasn't working or folding the clothes. So no matter what I was doing, I was feeling guilty. And so I told this to somebody about my, conundrum, and she said, well, why don't you just schedule that from 10 to 10:30, you're going to do the laundry, and then, from noon to 1:30, you're going to spend time with family. And I thought, I can't believe I didn't even think about this, that if I schedule it, I don't feel guilty when I'm doing it. That doesn't mean it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I want relief from guilt. And so it's like, oh, well, this is my hour and a half I get to spend with my family. I'm not going to feel guilty for not answering the phone or not doing something else, because this is family time. And so it gave me the freedom to enjoy that time more. Because as women, we're pulled in so many different directions. And we need to enjoy when we're doing our tasks.
Absolutely. That's a theme I hear from all women. We feel guilty all the time about what we're not doing.
It made such an impact. It was like such an easy thing. I hadn't even thought about it. Oh yeah, I don't have to feel guilty because I've scheduled this.
It's on my calendar. Okay.
Right, it's on my calendar, so I am free to do this without guilt.
Okay, so Y Woods is asking, I've been participating in a Patient Like Me site for people diagnosed with SLE. Is this part of the software you developed?
It's a question, is this part of the software I developed?
Is Patient Like Me, that site, part of what you've done?
No, Patients Like Me is a different program. Ours is mylinks.com. Patients Like Me is, they're a great site, but your information pretty much is available to everybody. What you put there is seen by everybody, and they are very open that once you put data on there, they can use it for research. Whereas MyLinks is your own electronic medical record from all of your sites. Because patients like me, you got to type it in. MyLinks.com is you pull it. Yeah, you don't have to type it in. It's being pulled and it's stored in there, and you can share it if you want to. What's really important too, remember I told you about the ONC is mandated that the patients have their data?
Mm-hmm.
Well, via this FHIR API, you're actually getting more data than if you go to the portal. If, I had a friend of mine said she wanted to test what she could see on our portal and what she could pull in via FHIR, and she was so amazed at all the stuff she could see in MyLinks that wasn't available in the portal, because the portal was mandated years ago and they really didn't say what data elements you have to show the patients. Most of them are showing like meds, allergies, diagnoses, things like that. But in FHIR, the ONC mandated exactly what they have to show the patients, and if they don't, it's information blocking, and it's quite a large amount of data, and that those data elements are actually increasing the number, the types of data a patient can see. And then in 2023, patients have the right to everything: images, notes that are between doctors, nurse notes, every single thing that is in the electronic medical record or anywhere else that stores your medical data, you have that right to. Even payers, next summer, you'll be able to pull your data, what your insurance companies have about you. And so that's the difference, is we're pull the data, and at your command. We don't go and do it without you. You actually push a button that says, get my data from this hospital. And we're interfaced with almost 33,000 hospitals and doctors' offices right now, and that's increasing. As these organizations implement this FHIR API, we're getting connected with them because they're still rolling forward, right? And they're still progressing. And so eventually, everybody, every clinic who has FHIR, we will be able to be connected to. So by 2023, which is right around the corner, honestly, you will have more data in your own little EHR, your MyLinks EHR, than the doctors have about you, because the doctor at this clinic might not have the information that this doctor has. So you're going to have the whole thing, and it's very, very powerful for the patients to have that, and on your children, especially people who have chronic illness. You know, what some people don't realize is that when clinics move from one electronic medical record to another, which they're doing that at almost the speed of light right now, all of your data that was in that first electronic medical record is no longer accessible over the internet. You have to go in and print out copies. For most of them, I'd say 95%. There might be a few companies that let you do dual data pulls, but I'm not sure. So going out there, pulling your data means you now have a copy of it. Whatever happens to your doctor's office is not going to negatively impact you when you need your data.
Excellent. That is excellent. All right, I got another question here. So Case Lane, how do we encourage training and education for better computer programmers, especially women, who are more aware of these data legacy data issues and can implement changes? Okay.
I tell you, the thing that was different about me when I was first getting programmed, I guess I did get programmed years ago, was that I thought about the problem from the end user's perspective. You know, what did this end user need? What's their workflow? You almost evaluate your end user before you build something, whereas a lot of the males do it the other way around. They build something, they think it's cool, and then it doesn't meet the need on the other side. So I realized that I was different, and I was okay with that. So that goes back to training the women to say, you might think differently, and it's okay. It's absolutely okay. And also just showing them how fun it is. My mom was a math and science professor. First she was in high school, and then she taught at LSU. And I went to a private school, so we had days off that my mom didn't have. And so what she would do is she would haul me with her. I'd sit in the back seat and do math problems all day, which sounds terrible to some people, but I loved it. I absolutely loved it. It was very simple ones, like a set of numbers. I would add them across, and then I would add them down. I would add them vertically, diagonally. And I sat there, to me, that was a game. And so, and then when my kids were growing up, I got teased about this later, and I didn't even think about this. So if they do something good, they got to do a page out of a workbook, like find which one is different, things like that, because it was fun. Learning is fun. And my friends were teasing me, as like, well, they gave their kids an ice cream cone. And well, okay, but my kids like these little books, and then my kids were actually now do that with their grandkids. So I think training people to know it's okay to be different, and it is fun to learn. Because when you're in the fun mode of learning, you start to go a little bit outside the page. You start thinking beyond it, right? And that's when you start thinking, I wonder if I could create. And so that was fun. And also, okay, programming. Remember I told you I had my daughter on my lap while I was creating some stuff. So I was originally, when I first started in college to do programming, it was all mainframes. And there was no computer science. There was in the math department. And so I learned all on the mainframes. But when the PC programs came out, I actually bought the software myself when I was training myself how to write it. And so I would write silly things like have some words across the top, and you push a button and they start falling down, like breaking it up into little pieces and looks like dust on the bottom of the screen, and show my daughter, this is how you make this happen. And so have fun. Actually, the first time I got a PC, I started pushing all the buttons to see if I could break anything, because I wanted to be beyond the fear. If you're afraid you're going to break something, then you're not going to like really give yourself to it, right? So just overcome any fear you have. I was afraid of the PC, so I made myself try to break it, and I didn't break it. And so that's what I would say. Show them that it's fun. It's okay to be different. And actually could create some pretty amazing things. It was all fun things that I did at first. It wasn't trying to solve any, world problems. It was just fun.
Very good. Very good. Well, okay, so someone is asking, it's Amy here, asking how widely used are your products? Are all medical care facilities using them? How about in the state of Oklahoma versus US versus worldwide? How widespread?
Okay. That's a lot of questions. So widespread, we have over 10,000 doctors in the United States. We are right now just in the US. We actually have some research companies looking at us that they are international. But our products are throughout the United States right now. We estimate over 40,000 patients per day use one of our PatientLink products. In Oklahoma, MyLinks is connected to Integris, if you're talking about Oklahoma City, St. Anthony's, the ones that already have the Fire API. You can actually, in MyLinks, there's a place that says retrieve your records. You can go there and you can actually just put in the state's name if you want. Just put in Oklahoma and you'll see, it'll come up with the entire list of all the organizations you can pull your data from. So it is right now just in the US, but I'm hoping within the next year we will be international.
Outstanding. And there's no cost to the patient? There is some cost to the
patient? There's no cost to MyLinks, no, because I feel that this is really important. You should have your data. And like I said, my first 3 products really pay for MyLinks, but where MyLinks will start earning the money is when we're engaging in research and we allow patients to say, hey, I want to participate in that Alzheimer's research, or I want to participate in this. And then the research companies will pay us. Basically, I'm calling it hosting the the research of this particular problem. So we're the connector, really, and the data gatherer and all of that, but it's all very, very patient engagement focused.
That's so exciting. You're doing such important work. All right, we're coming up on the end of the meeting, not quite, but any other questions, guys, quickly? Okay, all right, going once, going twice. Okay, so at the end of the day, what do you want people to have learned from you, and what actions do you want them to take?
Okay. I want them to learn that they can do it. Okay, if you asked me when I was a kid what I wanted to be when I grew up, I always said invisible. And now I'm on the stage speaking at government meetings and the technology meetings, and I am terrified every time I get up there. I'm terrified for 2 weeks before I get up there. But know who you are and be okay to push through any kind of barriers that you want to push through. You can do it. I personally think women are amazing at solving problems. I mean, you know, talking to 6 kids at the same time and knowing what conversations they're having and even looking in their eyes and knowing what's going on in their little heads. We have some amazing things that are part of who we are. Don't be afraid, have fun, be sincere. Integrity is the #1 thing in my company. That's the first thing I evaluate a new employee. Always have integrity. Even if it costs you a lot of money, integrity comes before anything else, because it's who you are. That's going to be part of who you are for the rest of your life. So, you know, just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid.
Very good. How about actions you want us to take? What do you want us to do?
I want you to ponder about what direction you should go. You know, honestly, my first product I named the P213, and that stands for Philippians 2:13, which is God is working in you. So that's my core. I'm not saying that's everybody's core, but my core is I believe that God is working in me to overcome some of these barriers within me and within the environment, that I trust in his guidance. So what I want you to do is really ponder who you are, ponder who's your strength. It may be a family member that's standing there with you and saying, go mom, you can do this. Celebrate the big things in your life. Are they even the little things? Celebrate, continue, think positive, think about always 2 steps ahead. You know, this is where, doesn't mean you're always going to know the answer. That's one of the things that I want to know 2 steps ahead, but it doesn't always happen, but at least I can think about it, you know, and just trust that I'm going to be okay, whatever happens.
Debbie, I mean, some of the comments here, you know, great work, Debbie, super impressive stuff. I don't know that we'll ever be able to thank you enough for blazing the path you're blazing. They love your quotes. I mean, you've been a terrific guest. We're so glad you came. Do you have any final thoughts you want to share?
Not really. Something, you know, I said this before, is each person is so valuable, so wonderful. Be thankful for who you are. Even all of our little deficits, all of our little weird things, they're part of who we are, and keep going and encourage other people along the way. And we'll all get there. We will make this happen together. It's together. That's the key word.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. That's what we're trying to do here. All right. So more comments. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you. Insightful, wise. Yeah, appreciate it. Okay. Thanks again for being here. And thanks for you guys for attending the call today. Please share this with your friends. Wasn't she fantastic? I knew she would be. Okay. So I just want to let you know from an upcoming guest standpoint, we've got Paula Marshall, the chair and the CEO of Bama Pies, coming on next week. And she is, if you don't know Bama Pies, they make the pies for McDonald's. And she's a very powerful, insightful woman. I want to remind everybody that we've got this partnership with the Money Talks, but what the hell is it saying, musical that's out there. We need to have people attend that, please. We're going to make a donation again to battered women's shelters coming out of this. So people can just register and get a ticket, and they can watch it from their couch through the end of October, which is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. So you can just go through our website and to buy a ticket. Please share that with your friends. Really appreciate it. If you've got a women-owned business that either has a female CEO or president or is half owned by women or has at least 20% women on the board, please sign up on our directory. You can have a free listing. Please download our Google Chrome extension so that you can find and buy from women-owned and women-led businesses as you shop. And we'd love it if you would like and share our media pages. Please help us get the word out. This series is fantastic. What Debbie said is amazing, very, very useful to everyone. I see some links, by the way, coming up in our chat around if people want to register for the webinar, the social media sites. And then please do let your friends know about this webcast. We do it every Friday at 10, and we've had some amazing guests. We're going to go ahead and start getting the word out on some podcasts much more broadly, and we just really would like your help getting the word out. Any final comments, Debbie?
Well, I saw your links coming up here, and maybe after this, everybody who has joined, you can send those links out to us so we don't have to try to quickly grab them, because they're all important links, and it would be awesome to connect in multiple ways.
Okay, we'll do it. We'll do it. Thank you so much. All right, everybody, I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And remember, purse power, we have it. Let's use it. Thanks again for being here.
Awesome.
Bye,
Thank
everybody.
you so much.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye.